Hello, welcome students. So again let's come back to our next piece of lecture, and in the previous lecture a lot of things we have discussed about shell programming, Linux or Unix shell programming, and some more things first we will discuss about the shell programming, and then we will proceed further topic wise under the shell programming. Now also we have mentioned earlier in some beginning or introductory classes where we discuss about shells little bit, and there we basically discuss about three type of shells. The shells are bone shell, mainly bone shell, sea shell and corn shell. These three type of shell, and one shell further we have mentioned earlier, that comparatively modern shell, and modern Linux distribution we will have that shell, that is bash shell. Bash shell is nothing but a version of a modern and improved version of bone shell, that is bash shell. Actually the full form of the bash shell is bone again shell. So there are three type of shell we have discussed: bone, or nowadays bash shell, and other two shells are sea shell and corn shell. And all the shells support all the basic features of Linux or Unix, like pipes, filter, directories and other similar standard features of Unix. Now each shell has its merits and demerits, that is true. And moreover, the one more thing you have to mention, that the shell script written for one shell that may not work with the other shell. Why? Because the reason is different shell use different mechanism to execute the commands in the shell script. So which mechanism one shell will follow, the other shell may not follow the same mechanism to implement those commands. And another one reason can be that the keywords available in one shell to implement instructions or command main shell. So the shell to shell set of keywords may vary. So if set of keywords vary, then whole set of keywords of one shell all will not be available in the set of keywords of another one shell. And generally we here by referring shell, we generally discuss about bone shell, or is bash shell, since it is one of the most widely used Unix or Linux shell. And another important thing is this bash shell, bone shell or bash shell comes by default with maximum number of Linux or Linux distribution. And again it lacks some features offered by C and corn shell, that is different. Now all shell program that is written for the bone shell are likely can be worked to the corn shell. So all bone shell programs can be implemented within the corn shell, but the reverse thing always may not be true. That means all the corn shell scripts may not be implementable in the bone shell. The reason behind this, you can say that facilities like arrays, command aliasing, and history mechanism available in the Korn shell, which is not available by the Bourne shell. But nowadays, Bash shell, in some cases, these facilities may be available, but previously in Bourne shell, those ability was not there. And the C shell programming language that resembles the C language and is quite different from the language of the Bourne shell. Only the very basic shell script will run under both the C and Bourne shell, and other shell script may not run from one script to another script. And the C shell also offers some command aliasing, which allows to user to create alternatives for command names. That means one command which have a system default name, we can change that command name to our some other defined name, that is command aliasing. Now when to use the shell script? Now let us come to our next slide, and in the next slide, this is introduction slide and types of shell. Already we have discussed the C shell, Korn shell, and the Bourne shell, this popular shell. Types of shell already we have discussed. Another one thing is when to use the shell script. So what the moment when you should use the shell script? That is, first thing, customize your work environment. That is, for example, every time you log in, if you want to see the current date, a welcome message, and the list of users who have logged in. So for this reason, you can write a shell script for this purpose. That is for customizing your work environment. Another one is automating your daily tasks. That is, for example, you may want to back up all your programs at the end of the day. So this can be done using a shell script. Another one is automating repetitive tasks. For example, the repetitive task of compiling a C program, linking it with some libraries, and executing the executable code that can be assigned to a shell script. So all these tasks you can concatenate within a shell script. Another example could be that of producing sales reports every month. And now another one task you may do, that is executing important system procedures like shutting down the system or formatting a disk like that, or creating a file system on it, or mounting the file system like that. These type of system procedures you can execute through shell. And again you have to know that some more things are there for which purpose you should not use a shell script. That is, to perform any task which is too complex, such as writing an entire billing system or like that, or any task which requires a high degree of efficiency, or any other task like which requires a variety of software tools, a lot of tools where you are needed. In those cases, you should avoid the shell program. You should not use shell programming in those cases. So more or less these are the cases, and in this video we have discussed mainly the types of shell and when to use the shell script, in which purpose or which form you should use shell script, and again what are the cases where you should avoid using the shell script. You should not use the shell script in those cases. So in this video we will cover up to this much. So here we have covered the introductory part and different type of shell and when to use the shell script and when shell script should not be used. So almost these things will comes under the introductory part. Now on the next piece of lecture videos onwards, we will go for topic wise discussion of the shell script. Okay, thank you students for this session. Okay.